Well, hey guys, welcome to another live event webinar for TotalLand. Today we're actually going to be looking over billing and management navigation today. My name is Jamie Castile. I'll be your host today, and I'll go ahead and throw up our outline for what we're going to be taking a look at. As you can see, we have our user billing item and billing invoice overview, which I'll be toggling between a regular user and a manager account, which the first 15 minutes will be creating billing items and billing invoices for the from the user's perspective, and then move into management billing, which will probably create couple of billing items and an invoice from a manager standpoint, and also be able to review the user's billing and set everything up to submit to a client. And also the next 20 minutes we'll be looking at the manage tab features, and once after we'll go ahead and have a review and have questions and answers soon after, pending the time allowed. I'm going to take a look at a couple of pre-submitted questions and answer those, but feel free to send me an email at jcastile@totalland.com if you have any questions you'd like to ask, or any kind of follow-up from this video. I'd love to hear from you. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump right in. Again, as I mentioned, we're actually logged in as a demo user, or as I call him, John Doe. This would actually be a field broker, and that is in the process of creating his billing. And something I wanted to mention as well, if you haven't already noticed as you're exploring your trial account, we have several resource videos and tools to help you navigate through the system. Anything that can help you get through understanding the system, because we don't, as far as going through TotalLand, I certainly don't expect you to capture everything at once. There's so many features, so many aspects of this system that we want you to get. However, it's definitely something you can't absorb in one day or one sitting. So a lot of these resource videos and quick help guides will help you get through the system. At any point you're in a specific area. Of course, here we're in billing right now. We have some videos based on just creating billing invoices or billing items that can help you. And as I said earlier as well too, we have the support button over the top right. You can just jump right in and see the whole entire library of videos available to help you out, as well as submitting a support ticket where you can get in touch with us if you're having any issues. All right, guys, jumping right into billing. We're going to go ahead and just create a new billing item. Again, we are logged in as our user, our field broker, John Doe. John Doe will go ahead and create a new billing item here. And next screen it brings you up to would be to go ahead and we'll prompt you to select which project we're billing for, which in this case we'll use our trial account. And next it'll bring up all the attributes. Category, we can give it title. You can select your county or parish. Of course, in this case with the trial account, it's Pittsburgh. There's also references. Sometimes your client may require a certain reference number to billing items, which can be edited by the manager, of course. Billing item details. We can edit and change the dates as needed. For billing purposes here, we'll go ahead and bill the first of the month. And this also allows you to bill X amount of days as needed. And we could also change the increments of how you'd like to set this particular billing item. Of course, you may have worked a half day. You can do a 4-hour day. We could also edit this feature to also include minutes. But for this sake, let's go ahead and do an 8-hour day. Of course, day rates on display here. Activity detail, let's say running title in the courthouse. And of course, this can be more elaborated on as needed. Show previous detail. This would basically be a recordation of any previously input data for the activity detail that you can reuse over. Let's say this isn't the first time we've created this. Perhaps we've done it a few more times. Well, of course, the details would come up, and I'll show that the next billing item I create. Attachments. Let's go ahead and attach some receipts. We'll go ahead and use our the items in our toolkit, which of course you can download from the from the support area, just to help with your trial account. Let's include a restaurant receipt and a hotel receipt. Mileage. We have our mileage rate here already inputted. Of course, that can be adjusted by the office manager. Actual miles, let's say he drove 100 miles, but the billable miles can only be 90 miles, assuming maybe he'd driven 5 miles to and then 5 miles back to the courthouse to a restaurant. The actual miles would be to help for his tax purposes later on the road. Expenses. Let's go ahead and add our expenses. Let's add our lodging. Let's say it was $100 a night. And also meals. Let's say it's $10 lunch. And what I want to do here is we're given a couple of options to be able to save this billing item. But let's say we want to bill for March 2nd and then March 3rd, so on and so forth. And essentially most of the information will be relatively the same. What I would like to do actually is use save changes and copy +1. Now what this does is saves the original billing item you created and generates the next day's billing item, which now can be edited here as you need. We'll just go through it again. It's the same project, same category. He was running title again the next day. Most of the same activity details. Attachments. Let's go ahead and attach a different, well, we'll use some of the same information, but we'll say, pretend it's a different restaurant receipt, and also hotel expense, and we'll just say essentially the same miles, same prices for expenses. Maybe we could add another one. Maybe that day he made several copies of instruments on his own and he paid out of pocket. If there was not an account already created for your company. We'll go ahead and save changes and copy +1 again. And now let's say the Thursday he's run some title, and now he decided to go and purchase a lease. He determined who his landowner is, and now he wants to go ahead and get some ink. So we'll go ahead and change our category here to leasing. We'll say the same county. Of course, it's because we use the copy +1 feature, it automatically brings us to the next day. And again, we'll assume it's a full day's work. And for the activity detail, we can say lease acquisition. And as I mentioned earlier with the previous detail, see it pulls up the running title and the courthouse note, which just helps later on because maybe the next day he is back in the courthouse running title again. It makes it a lot easier to do all your notations and whatnot, and edit as need. We might want to add more details as far as specific locations or specific landowners or whatnot. Let's see, attachments. We'll just say, let's say he wasn't overnight. We'll just add just say he had lunch. Miles, let's just say he drove a little bit further, maybe 150 miles. And maybe for his billable miles here. Of course, we'll take off lodging. No copies. Let's say he did get his lease signed and he needed to get it notarized. We can add a notary fee if he had to purchase out of pocket as well. May have been $10 for the notary fee. And you could add the descriptions too as you need. And in this case, we'll just go ahead and save the changes to have our third billing item for this case. And here's an overview of all the various items we just created. The next thing we'd like to do is go ahead and jump into a billing invoice. So now that we have our items, go ahead and we now have the option to create a new billing invoice. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, John Doe, and we will select the date was submitted. Let's say it's on a Friday, or the next day, Friday, after the work was completed. And he can add a comment as he likes. And he can deselect, or of course, by default, it's all selected which items he'd want to include on the invoice. Let's go ahead and save the changes. And there you go. The billing invoice has already been submitted to management for approval. If perhaps maybe he had made an error in billing, he can choose to desubmit the invoice and go back to edit, but we can take a look by generating a PDF or an Excel spreadsheet with the details. Let's just take a look at that, see what that looks like. There you go, got an invoice cover sheet, 3 days, and then we have all of the details. Real easy for the user to use our billing feature. And again, going through some of the detail. The user can take a look at it by calendar, and also click on and look at some of the details of what he's done. And also view by days. So real simple, real easy for the user to do his billing. Saves a lot of time. It's definitely a great feature, and it's not too terribly complicated to show your team how to use it. All right, so now that we've seen the user's billing perspective, we can log out as the user. And I'm going to now log in as project manager, which would be myself. So now I can go ahead and give an overview of billing management. And we can take a look at John Doe's billing information and approve it and prepare it for client submittal. But first, I'm going to go ahead and create a couple of billing items myself and start to bring it all perspective for when we bill the client. Let's say that was project management. Again, just kind of running through. We'll do this some of the same dates. Attachments, we'll just go ahead and bypass these. We'll do save changes. Copy +1. And we'll build for the 3rd. And I'll want to edit these, of course, so we can match our brokers' work days as well. There we go. And now what I want to go ahead and do is create an invoice for myself as the project manager, which is essentially the same method as field brokers and all team members would use. We'll say it was Friday as well. Save changes. And of course it's been submitted, but in this case, of course, I would be the billing manager. So the next thing I'd like to take a look at would of course be billing management, which again, whoever's authorized to view these two tabs, that's of course at the administrator's discretion. We'll just take a look at billing item management. The output items, we have billing items on approved invoices, billing items on unapproved invoices, billing items not on invoices, and all billing items. Let's just pull that up and see, take a look. Universal, group by project user, group by user, group by user and project. That would be the output grouping. And of course we can view by brokers, which we'll go ahead and view all. And I'll also want to take a look from the beginning, the start date, up until now. And we'll take a look at the report. And we can get a good look at everything that's been submitted by way of billing items. And we can show all the attachments as well, which makes it very easy for your project manager or whoever handles billing to keep a daily view of what's going on out in the field. Again, it definitely helps consolidate your work, makes things a lot easier if you're on the fly wanting to guide your brokers to correcting any errors you might notice, or any expenses that they may have forgotten to attach if they're billing for any expenses and whatnot. And we could also look at the user invoice management. Which is just pretty much self-explanatory. It shows all submitted invoices by brokers associated with your brokerage. And of course you have the reporting options, which we can view all brokers, including yourself, and the field brokers. And you can select which dates you would like to take a look at, and whatever options, approved, not approved, or show all. And you can also change the order how you'd like to, if you want to alphabetize a listing. Let's go ahead and take a look at the report. And this is where we'll go in and approve these, approve the details. But of course, we would like to get a good look and see what's happening here. And we're looking again at John Doe's information, taking a look at what the details he's done and some of the expenses he's billed for. And if it all checks out, we can go ahead and approve it. Mark it as approved. And John will also get a notification that his invoice has been approved whenever he takes a look again at his submitted invoice. And since I am also the billing manager, I can approve myself, or again, if this billing manager was subjected to higher level authorities permission, they can take a look and do as they need. So we'll approve it as well. And now we can take a look at the client invoice management. And we can actually search the invoices. We'll search all clients. You could also take a look at specific invoice numbers, date ranges, which I'll go ahead and select March for the ones we had recently inputted earlier. Status, we can take a look at that. Total amount range, if you want to, if you'd like to take a look, let's go ahead and click find. And of course we have nothing submitted just yet, so we'll take a look at new invoices. And it pulls up the recent invoice we just approved under the user invoice management. So now we're in the process of being able to approve this to submit to our client. And of course you can adjust the dates as needed. Let's go ahead and create a client invoice for the check project. All right, and now this is ready to submit to our trial client. We can generate the PDF, get a good look at it. And there you go. You have all your information here. The project we're working with, the date, invoice number, all of our funds that we're billing for. Real simple, ready to go. And of course a breakdown of all the funds we're billing for. And of course our John Doe, our demo user. Real easy. Of course, there's also a batch printing feature, which if you have multiple invoices, you can do that as needed. Of course, for the trial purposes, we only have our one project, but it's just another feature you can use. All right, so we've covered all the basics with the billing management. We can also pull up billing reports as well. If you need to go back and take a look at prior submitted information. We can do all brokers invoices. We can show expenses, client markup, whatnot. Let's go ahead and generate a PDF. Take a look at that. There you go. This is all the information we had inputted earlier from John Doe. And also myself, project manager. Real easy stuff, guys. And there's several ways of looking at your billing reports, your categorized details, broker billing downloads. Let's take a look at that. Billing items on approved invoices. Yeah, we have our dates here, March 1st. Let's view the report out of curiosity. We're going to open up an Excel. And there you go. There's a total right here. We have the billing items as well. And there's the details. Lots of features to help pull up all your data on billing anytime. Expense categories. Real easy stuff, guys. Broker day billing reports, invoice count, package billing information, custom billing reports, which is available to companies with an advanced license or licenses above. Sometimes you might need a customized report for your specified billing. Of course, that would be features with this license. And I think that just about covers all the essentials with billing. We looked at the basics of the billing and, of course, all the billing management features and billing reports. So now, without further ado, we can jump right into the Management tab. All right, so looking at the Management tab, this feature, of course, is only available to office managers and above, and certain other level authority that are allowed to access managing projects and creating users and such. And we'll go through each and every one of these features. Let's start with our project box here in the Management tab. We'll take a look at Manage Projects. We can search our project. Of course, if you're using the trial account, we'll only have access to one particular project. Of course, if you elect to purchase a license, you'll be able to create new projects and be on your way with managing all your work. So with project management, of course, just going through it real briefly, we can search. A lot of ways of searching by category. If it's leasing or just dealing with wells, or all projects. Is it active? Yes or no. Project may not be active. You can certainly take a look back and see what you got. Has acquisition, has billing, and you can also just search it by name if you like. And as far as the projects, you can take a look. You could also download it as an Excel. Let's just take a quick look at that. And it just gives a little brief overview of some of the details of it. Of course, it would have multiple projects as you populate the system. But let's go ahead and just briefly take a look at editing our project. This is almost a similar setup as we have for managing your tracks and contracts parties and whatnot. But again, from a manager's standpoint, a little bit more detail. Again, you can name it, rename it if you choose to. Of course, a child project, that's about the only exception in this case. We can add an alias or a code to further define what the project is. description of the project, and of course changing the type of project. Of course, for our demos, it's strictly oil and gas. Project category, brokerage and client. You can change this as you need, as you input data for your clients, which we'll show in a little bit as well. Default payor is active, of course. Has acquisition, has billing, has mapping. Polygon mapping method, of course, you can, if you have your own mapping service, you can select your own brokerage, or if there is your client that does their own mapping, you can select them as well. And we also offer TotalN mapping here as well. If you need mapping assistance, we'd be more than happy to help you map your project out. And your mapping contact, company name on reports, yes, you can choose to have that or not have that. Has surface interests, mineral interests, has townships, has abstracts, lots of different features to go through. Of course, upon creating an account, you can choose to request a base map from either us again, or if your own mapper, so we can set up your map and get that going. Half sheet defaults. This would help out significantly with abstracts. I know a lot of times when we've done abstracts, we prefer the term cover sheet as opposed to half sheet, so you can change that if you like. Recordation of filed. This would be for your leasing, if you like to change that terminology. County or parish. Of course, parishes would only apply to Louisiana, but that is an option if you need. Or maybe you're from out of state, work in Louisiana. Be sure to drop me a line. Come say hello. Additional options. Default project AFE. Project terminology. As I was saying before, you can elect to call it life estate remainderment, which is pretty dominant in the rest of the United States. Custom client invoice options. Comments for the project. Default invoice note to client. Default invoice attention. There's, you name it, it's there. Output encryption options. All PDF output generated by TotalN is encrypted, and of course you can change that if you do not wish some of the encryptions. Billing rates. This feature is to help control some of the cost of spending. Let's say we said we want to give our broker a limit of $10 to spend for lunch. If they try to exceed this, it'll certainly notify them, let them know, and let you know that that's not permissible. Overnight meal rates and such. And you could also do the same for. You can also add a bonus description if you like for projects. And I won't worry about saving in this case, but just to show you. Brokers. You can add brokers as you need to on this project, and establish their day rates and give them a project role. Of course, I have myself, and we have a demo user, and also John Doe, as we mentioned earlier. Locations for the project. Statuses. You can select which statuses you'd like to have for your tracks, and also your party statuses. The payor, you can choose whichever group will be paying. Demo trial brokers to trial client. AFEs. Payment forms. Of course, you can add a payment form if you like, but we already have our default for the trial account, and you can edit all this information as you need. And templates, client templates, and reports. Lots of information, lots of detail when setting up your project, but feel free to ask any questions regarding any of this stuff. I won't go into too much detail regarding this, as we have a lot to look at. I was just jumping right into the project. Of course, these are all previously created tracks, but we'll go back to the Managers tab and move on. Manage project forms. Prompts you to search for your project. Of course, we want to pull up our trial account. And for the purpose of your trial account, you've already had a demo lease form already set in your trial account, but of course you can add more forms as you need whenever you have your regular license account. And just going through here, project form, you can, if it's a oil and gas lease or something your client no longer wishes to use, you can make it, they can choose obsolete. Or maybe it's a third-party contract that you can make notations on. And regarding this, you can add some of the main clauses already, like shut-in or pew clauses, terms, bonus per acre, royalties. We can add more royalties as we go along. Top lease payment percentage, extension, additional paragraphs. Again, these are examples for the for the trial account. Standard provisions. And printing. Configure project form printing. Include memorandum, include W9. Audit tests. Of course, this is where you can choose to elect which failsafe you want for that particular contract. You can choose to ignore it, or just simply give your broker a warning. Or if you elect to have it fail because the contract has invalid status, or if the contract doesn't have a name, it would not produce the contract for the broker. They'll be forced to have to produce a name or to have a status for the contract. This is where you have control over how you want these contracts generated by your brokers. And statuses, same thing with the project. Managing your project earlier, you can select whichever allowed statuses you want for your contract. Royalties, this is where we can add royalties. Of course, earlier when we were taking a look at the details, we only had the 1/8, but we can add further royalties as need. 1/5. You can add it by decimal as well. And text. And we also have a common royalties library, which instead of adding this, you can select these as well, which I'll go ahead and do here. And we can take the previously inputted one off. We'll add 1/4. Save the changes. And again, going back to details, working on the particular contract now, your broker will have access to other royalties as needed. And we can take a look at a blank form of the contract just to see what it looks like. There you go. And whenever your broker goes to create a contract, all the inputted data will be generated onto this. And you can choose to have them have the option of generating a Word document as well if they want to manually edit any of the provisions. But generally, we'll certainly keep that as a management feature to choose whom they would like to have that option for. All right, moving on to users. This is where we can create a new user. And we have three options with this. We can create user by invitation. And again, as before, anything marked with a red asterisk is required data to be inputted. As their familiar name, or just a regular name, email address. And the value is really important because this helps us to whatever email you send to, maybe you have sent it to by accident a wrong email. Well, the value would be only information that the person that you were intent on sending this invitation to would know. It might be their date of birth. It might be a driver's license. It might be an employee identification. Only they, whenever they would log in for the first time, only they would know what the value is and be able to input and log into TotalAnd. So that's definitely a fail-safe security method to avoid having anyone else log in that you don't want there. User defaults option, you could also input their day rates and give them a project role right off the bat. So I encourage you to do this, especially if you're trying to gauge the rest of your team members for your trial account. If you have multiple users, I would certainly use option 2, the batch create user invitation. And it's essentially the same as create user by invitation, except right off the bat we have the verification type. We'll say date of birth, and we'll add a user to invite, add their name, the email address, and their verification value. Of course, you would have to input that date of birth, in which whenever they would get the invitation, they would in turn input that verification value, so they can so they'd be the rightful user to log in. And you can input all that data as you need. And again, you can add as many users as you like for the batch invitation. You can invite your whole team, spanning from your project manager, your crew chief, broker, and you can have read-only, notes-only people as well that only have access to just simply reading all the data, putting in. And finally, option 3, you can create user manually. If your team is kind of hadn't caught up on getting in, and you're kind of having a little bit of difficulty and want to get them in right off the bat, well, here you go. Just input their name, middle name, last name. Again, all the red asterisk information is relevant, and they can input all this other data later on. APL number, email address, phone numbers, all this is required data. You can submit information, and right off the bat they'll get an email invitation, and they can log right in to get them started. And of course, we can edit all the information for the users. We can take a look at John Doe's data. We can input his information as needed. Whatever project he's working on, his defaults, permissions. We can make him office manager or office administrator. We can also make him a help desk user or liaison user. Notifications and website preferences. Of course, even John Doe would have access to that information, where he can elect to not receive no emails via notification. You can choose to become the owner of an entity created. Let's say you created a tract and you don't want to be the owner of that. You don't want to be associated with it. You want to keep it open for another landman to be able to take control of and edit as they need. You would, of course, deselect, become the owner of the entity created. Of course, looking at the manage users again, one thing I was noticing looking back at John Doe, we can also take a look at some of the training results, as we have training videos to help guide you through the whole system, which is certainly helpful in getting to know the system, because again, it's a lot of information. There's so many features in this system, and I certainly encourage you to take a look at some of these videos. Don't have to look at them all at once. You can just take a look at some of the various ones, and we even have a little quiz you can take a look at, just to kind of help you reinforce some of the knowledge. All right, so I guess we'll move on to the company information. We'll go ahead and manage our company. Looking at your brokerage information. Of course, this is for the trial version, but here we can change all this as needed. And of course, if you decide to upgrade your license, all this will roll over and it'll maintain all your data. So looking at the name, of course, that's always a mandatory deal. We're considered demo trial brokerage, but of course you can call it whatever you want, whatever your brokerage company is. Invoice name, whatever you wish to be used on client invoices in place of the name. Alias. Email, your company phone number, fax number, tax ID number, license contact, legal name. We could also use a generate legal name. Project terminology. Again, we can. This would be universal for all projects, and of course it can be changed project to project, as we saw earlier. Verification default, that can be changed as needed too. Polygon mapping method, again, this would be set as default. Billing time increments, as I mentioned earlier in billing, we can change to 2-hour increments here, or the standard 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on and so forth. And also standard plus, where we have the minute intervals as an option. Billing display units as a day or as hours. Use direct expenses. User inactivity limit. Invitation expiration days. If you batch invite your team members and they don't answer within 7 days, that would expire, so you wouldn't have to worry about that, and you could change that as you like. User contact listing default. And you could change it by last name or have it as first name. Of course, encryption options, same as what we were discussing earlier. User invoice options. Client invoice options, we can use an hourly rate. description, expense options. Excuse me. Show billing item category. Yeah, there's multitude of items here. And your help desk and liaison. Secondary help desk. These would be the people, pretty much the go-to people within your company that that are very familiar with the system and can certainly help your field brokers as you go along. But again, feel free to contact us anytime you need, as far as us being able to help you out. Of course, physical location of your office. And roles. We could also change and create new project roles. You can call this role whatever you wish and make it active and assign it whatever abilities you want to give that person, or that role rather. And for read only and the other, all of the other default roles, we can change those as needed too. Maybe your broker, we might want to give him the ability to assign users and whatnot. All that can be changed. Statuses. Licensing. This is where you would go to convert your trial to an active license, which is a very simple process. We'll just ask a few questions to kind of help you determine which would be the best license that would work for you. Profile. This basically would be where you can upload your company logo, which can appear on your billing items and your all your ownership reports and whatnot. Profile info, of course, this would be approved by us, but it would be an option for us to display this on a website if you like. Manage libraries. Within the trial, we don't have access to some of these, but manage forms, basically, with a regular license, it would give you the option to manage all the forms you've uploaded into TotalAN and manage additional paragraphs. This would be able to add and create and establish new paragraphs to be uploaded onto your contracts. Manage provisions. Manage payment forms, and also manage customer reports. Of course, manage payment forms. Whenever you were to add your own payment forms for paying out your landowners who would not, this is where you'd be able to upload that and set payments and whatnot. Manage customer reports. Same thing. If you have certain reports that your client requires you to submit, this is where you would manage it. Contract party payment management. This is where we can manage an established contract party payment made by your broker. We can take a look at some of the information here. This is from a previous lease that was established and a payment that was created. We have all that access to all that information here, and we can edit all the all the payment tracking and all the other information as needed. Site activity. We can take a look at some of what you and your users, how they've been progressing with using the system. You can download it as a PDF, or we can take a look at the charts and graphs. Filter by broker. Let's see how John Doe's been doing today. Okay, now go ahead and take a look at the PDF. In this case, not much activity, but that's okay. Just to get a look at what's going on. And now into accounting. We can take a look at the client 1099 data. And pretty self-explanatory, using it to generate a report showing a summary of the contract party payments for a selected project within the year. And here's all the options with taking a look at which payment trigger you'd like to pull up and the format you'd like to download it, XML or an Excel. Manage party detail be the last thing we'll take a look at. So in party detail management, we can take a look at any information that might be missing throughout our project. Of course, we don't have that much stuff listed, but this would alert us as to any information we might need for tax purposes or being able to pay the parties. Like address info or our client party ID or our social security number, any relevant data. That would certainly help us out down the road with in the middle of a lease play. So that's basically the gist of the Manage tab. Like I said, lots of features here. And once we get into a regular license, you'll have access to these other features. But at least you get the gist of exactly how to manage your trial account and going into your system. You'll have a good look at what's going on. And again, as I noted earlier, plenty of resource videos, lots of information to help you get through and take a look at how to manage the system. And well, that about covers all of the major points I was looking at today. I did get a question about queues, if we can take a look at it. Absolutely. Let's go into the queues tab here. Basically, queues are pending items. We're awaiting approval from another source, like mapping items. There, you might be awaiting your mapper to create a map for you, and this just lets you know that it's being worked on right now, or you're waiting it. With the polygon request, you may want to, if you submitted a polygon by accident and you weren't quite ready to let your mapper know, you can always choose to deselect it. And the mapper won't need to worry about it anymore. Tracks without polygon requests, we can take a look at that and let you know, of course, I desubmitted the polygon request. We can also re-request these if we do have our plat or reference material for a mapper to look at. Base maps, you can also request your base map in your new projects that you upload. Management queues. This would be for authorizing contract packets. If your field broker had put all his information together, you can take a look at it and see if it's ready to accept. Authorize additional paragraphs. If there are any other paragraphs that your field broker wanted to include on his lease, but as a manager you wanted to give that final say-so, final yes, final okay to add, this would alert you that there's a paragraph awaiting to be approved by the manager. Data export. We can take a look at that. Contract unique name. There you go. Like I said, just one of many features we have. That pretty much covers it with queues. And that is about all the time I have today. Wow, just amazing how fast time flies. But if you're currently in your trial account right now, I hope you're making the most of it. And if I could be of any help to you with being able to make the most of it, or if you've created if you've established a regular license and you're trying to get the gist on get a handle on some of the features, feel free to contact me again, jcastile@totalland.com. And as I mentioned earlier, we also have the support ticket system. But thank you so much for tuning in today. I guess that will call it a day. Hope y'all have a great one. Thank you so much.